I believe that my secret sauce is my strong sense of identity and how I show up. And you've known me for decades. I'm like, I always show up as I am, right? There's situational awareness, right? You always know how to connect and mediate in moments, but I'm always who I am. And I think that has always, in many ways, beginning with the early part of my career at Moody's, where I got promoted quite a lot at the beginning of my tenure at Moody's, sort of every other year. Not just because I was doing my work well, but because people liked working with me, right? Because people appreciate that. And I didn't value that as much then as I do now. The benefit of being in the C-suite in your 50s, right, is that like you've lived, right? I've lived. Like, I have experienced all of the marginalization. I've experienced all the insecurities, and I am far more secure in my career. I have also worked in a lot of different places, right? So I know, like, if this doesn't work out, like, I can work somewhere else. So there's that sense of security, but there's also that strong sense of responsibility of, I am now the person that our people look at and feel like they can achieve what I've achieved, right? I remember when I was that person trying to find people that I could relate to. And so in many ways,
was that a lot of pressure for you?
No, it wasn't pressure. It's actually kind of, it allowed me permission to be even extra me, right? When I joined Vice at the beginning of the pandemic, it was all virtual. Right. And so what were we doing then? We would send, that was at the beginning. Now I think a lot of organizations do this, but we would send a photo, of the new executive so that the company could see you. And our CEO would send notes every Friday kind of to, worldwide to the company, and would say, oh, we just hired our new chief people officer. And so when I was asked for my photo, I thought very intentionally, what photo am I going to send? And so I sent the photo. And also because we were eating a lot during the pandemic. So I sent the photo of brunch with my husband, my daughter, and I. And we were eating mangú con huevo frito y salchichón, los tres golpes, right? Mm-hmm. And I was very intentional on sending that photo and explaining what that photo was. I was like, this is me, my husband, and my daughter, and we're having a traditional Dominican breakfast of mangú, salchichón, and that was my introduction to the company. And that was the tone that I wanted to set, that I was showing up authentically as me, and that there is no shame in what we do. And I have to tell you, the emails that I received from employees of color all over the world, thanking me, feeling seen, feeling so excited that another woman of color, that a Latina, that a Dominican and Puerto Rican, right? All of the things that people could connect with me, that reinforced my belief that this is important, this is valuable. And that's how I led.
So before you got to that point,
yeah,
because I followed your career, and I got the privilege of seeing Daisy in different phases of your career.
All the phases.
And when you got to Vice, from observing on the outside, I observed that you reached a point where you started owning more of your cultura and owning more of who Daisy is without having to play so much of the game all the time.
The corporate persona.
Right. So before you got there, what were some of those insecurities that you had to battle through in order to get you to the place of, I'm a senior Latina executive and you're going to see me eat my mangú with my family. Yeah. Okay?
Yeah. I mean, I think for all of us it's all situational, and it's all the role and the level that you're playing in, right? So in the early part of my career, you play it really safe, right? You walk into rooms and you're not the first to speak, right? You watch, how do people speak? I'm like, that's how I'm going to speak. That's right. And in many ways, and that is both the corporate game, but that is the life game, right? Like it is being able to be observant and recognize what does success look like here. And eventually down the road, especially leading the work of diversity and inclusion, which is what I eventually started doing, there was also this sense of responsibility of, if I'm going to tell people that they need to bring their authentic selves to work, I need to be authentic too, right? So what does that look like? And I've always said this to everyone that I've coached. I was like, you can be your authentic self and also navigate a space thoughtfully. For example, when I worked at Disney, I worked on the TV side. So that did make me a little bit of an outlier in a company where the parks is really the most massive presence in the company. But because I worked and I lived in LA at the time, I worked on the media side, right? on any given day, we would be walking in floors where Shonda Rhimes would be walking in, right? Any actress, right? Like, so we dressed the part, right? It's like my cute dresses, my heels, my hair flowing, all of the things. But I would go to meetings where the HR meetings, for example, where everybody looked the same. I always worry about saying these things because I don't want to be offensive towards people that I worked with, but it did feel like it was Stepford Wives, right? Everybody had the same uniform of clothing, khaki pants and skirts, a button-down shirt, almost the same haircut. And I remember walking into those spaces, clickety-clacking with my heels and going like, something looks different here, right? And usually there was like one more Black woman and perhaps one other Latina and one Asian person, and we would give each other the eye like, hi. And some of them would choose to not clickety-clack and some did, right? And those were the people that were like, you're my people. But I remember in those spaces, and I had, a really, at that time, also a really great male boss, head of HR. And he would always just tell me, he's like, I hired Daisy for Daisy, be you. Everyone's going to want you to be like everybody else because the culture here is so homogenizing. I can never pronounce that word correctly. But I was like, I want you to be you. And it was there where I learned both the dance of, right, being me, but also being able to say, like, let me just be clear. I can speak like all of you. I can hypothesize like all of you. And I also bring who I am to this.